Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. So we're back with another Tower of God video, and this time we are continuing with the walk up from episode 51 up to episode 60. Running through the comic at this fast rate has made me skim over quite a bit of stuff, but at the end of this chapter there's going to be a long recap before we enter into the next season, that's season 2. So yeah, there is going to be one of the weird stops because we're going to recap everything all over again, which was already captured in my first time going up the tower when I explained everything in short little drabs as we moved on from arc to arc, basically. So let's get back to the story in chapter 51. So we get right back into the fight with Ender Rossi fighting Quant. And then we see them going at it at full hint, and Baum says stop, and he just hits Quant that he got hit with reverse flow control. And Rossi basically exclaims, Baum, did you do this? And Quant is like, unbelievable, how did he pick that up so fast and at that distance? What is that monster? Now remember, he has been all the way up the tower. He has fought other regulars. He has fought crazy regulars at the A rank level in order to become a ranker. And this kid on the slow floor is insane. So what is that monster? This is dangerous. And basically, Quant explains he already finished his allotment. Now he's going to have to really work hard. And he has to use his full power against the Princess of Jahad because this monster is also getting involved, and that's going to just throw more crazy stuff inside. And remember, this is a Princess of Jahad. Now, even Kun's plan hadn't accounted for Baum being this talented. They expected Ender Rossi to do this on her own. Baum is now proving that all of this innocence that he's showing is nothing. And we then see Quant go at it, and he basically says nothing is impossible for him, and he has that fight, and he's going at it non-stop, full blast, and finally he lands a blow on Ender Rossi saying gotcha, and we get the little hints of Serena talking to Ho, because Ho is already dead, just by the way. And then we see as he's about to attack, Baum attacks again, and he's like, this is absurd. How has he gotten so accurate with the technique he just picked up? And that's saying a lot because he's at ranker level with this technique already. Right? And they're thinking this is insane. He only has one power, one bang that he can use. If he manages to pick up a second bang, we are finished. Imagine what this monster can do. He'd be able to stop rankers in their flow. So basically we get the little hints of everybody watching the fight from the side, and the powers being used each time. And finally we see that Quant puts in all of his power and he runs right through, ripping the shirt off Ender Rossi's back, grabbing what he thought was the badge, because they showed the badges to each other, which was just a little red glimmer that he saw. And as he's holding it, we see that Ender Rossi managed to reel his badge at the same time. And basically, Ender Rossi exclaims, red underwear, that's bold. Wait a minute, this isn't the badge. And he keeps looking at it, and he looks at it and he realizes he's holding her underwear, and that's it. The test ends there because she managed to catch his badge and all he managed to catch was underwear. The medics rush in, they pull everybody away, Ho is already dead, and everything is interrupted because this was quite a massive mess. We then catch back in with the key player who is about to play a massive role in the next part, Yuri Jahad. We catch into her team and they are ready to jump into Evan Cal's floor, and they find a way in, so they end up jumping off that cliff to get into the floor without being detected. Remember, they don't want Evan Cal to know that they're there. So we get back into the chapter in chapter 52, with a mic test start, basically Lero is giving it an announcement, and he basically says that they're going to get the results from the exam from yesterday. And Baum went and he found out that Rachel has been injured really badly, and he's going to have to say bye-bye to everybody, or he's going to have to find a way to work for her. And all the meals are free at the moment. All the meals are free on the floor at the moment, so nobody has to conserve their points, and everybody is feasting and eating. And Kun explains how Enda Rossi ruined everything because she also exposed the fact that Michelle was definitely Rachel, and it wasn't like it was a secret. Baum already knew. But anyway, the whole thing was really crazy. And then we see Enda Rossi explaining how the eel would have been better to have eaten, and we see Shibusu playing a joke, saying that it's his treat and he's giving us a drink to Kun, and he says thanks, and Shibusu says, "No need to thank me, all the food is free today, I was just joking." And basically he says, forget what happened to our team and all of that there. And then we see the crocodile running in his shrunken form to go and harass Kun. And then Kun gives that little giggle and a laugh, and he's like, so who are you? Are you looking for your father, basically? Your little munchkin. You look much younger. Basically he's teasing Rak, and Rak explains what happened. He was moving around to find the tin can, away from the tin can to find something to do, and he ended up passing the coffee addict, Han Sang-yu. And he said this little guy should get out of his way. Then Han Sang-yu circled him and shrunk him down into the small form. He compressed him, and he went on to the test, and he's stuck like this here. So he wants to know if Kun could throw him in the bag and decompress him, but it turns out that Kun's bag can't do that. He can decompress someone to put them in. And Kun explains that Baum most probably won't be going up the tower because he finally found Rachel. And Rak has this major freak out, this banana situation where he says he'll pull out his banana and all of that craziness. And he says he's going to take Baum no matter what because that's his prey. We get a hint of how close they are already. And that is the end of episode 52. 53 starts, and we get all of these crazy things with the stuff. And basically he says he's going to take him no matter what. You're even more useless than before is something that he says. And Kun explains he had a sister named Maria, that is Princess Maria Jahar, Maria Kun Jahar, if you want to put it that way. And he explains that they had different mothers and they were barely related, and that he helped her ascend to the point where she would be next to the king. And in so doing, he had to do some really horrible stuff. And he actually explains that there's something missing from his heart ever since he got her to go to the king. And he explains that he thought that watching Baum chase Rachel, he could find something to fill that missing part in his heart. And that's why he was reluctant about having them meet each other. And before he found what he was looking for, that's why he helped her to ensure Baum kept going. But finally things had changed, and he figured out that he was always perfect. And what was he missing? And basically Rak says something. You're boasting about it. Do you even know what it is to be a princess of Jahar? Okay, wait now. So Rak explains, if I were you, I would kill that king and make myself the king so that she was at my side. And he basically says, you know what you lost that day? You lost your banana, basically. A crude reference to what we would say in our world. And Kun basically defends his genitals at that point against Rak. And then Baum walks in and he says, I have something to tell you. Rachel might not be able to walk anymore. Okay, so basically he heard that it's curable on the higher floors and you need an expert to do it. And after that day we see Rak going, you can never give up, you can never do the thing. Bam says he'll be Rachel's legs. And basically Rak says, you can't give up your legs. And he says, no, I'm going to help her climb up the tower. I'm going to climb it up with her even if she's crippled. And he says he'll do whatever it takes even if it's dangerous, he'll keep climbing up the tower. And he basically explains this is a lot for him to ask, but I'm not as strong or as smart as you are. And I wanted to ask if you will join me. And this makes Kun happy. And he realizes what it is that he was missing from before. He couldn't ask to go up with her. And that is the thing that he should have done. He would have been together with her and that would have been better. And even though it would have been more painful and more dangerous, but that would have been the better part. So Kun hatches a plan almost instantly and he says it's the most evil, sneaky way you could possibly do it. Be prepared, because he's going to teach him everything all at once. And he asks him, which one do you want to learn first, to trick or to bluff? And he says, does he have to choose between the two, which suggests that he's going to learn to do both. And they basically sit and they talk and they go through everything that they're going to do and they hatch up their plan, that they need a team who is going to be loyal and that he might have a way to actually get her in, because there's a possibility that a rancor was involved and they need to go to all the stuff to get it is. And he explains that Little Ro might help them and they need to leave that part up to him. And he basically explains that they each have their role. Bam has to help them build a bigger team, and Rak gets to be the leader. That makes Rak really happy, and they start their diabolical plan. And that is the end of 53. Now, I'm going to be going quite fast through the next few chapters, because there's a lot to discuss at the end of this, because this forms another part of the whole craziness behind the plan being hatched. Right? And there's a lot that is going to be explained here. So we get Shibisu and Serena talking, and Serena basically explains that she's not going to be selected and she has a feeling that she's going to leave and she doesn't want to see any of them falling behind or getting hurt and all of that. And we see Bam trying to get Parakul to join him, and basically Parakul basically says no, and Rossi approaches him and explains everything. And we see Rossi explain everything that she felt. And she hears what Bam had to say about how he was when he was a kid. When he had nothing, she was the first person he saw. She was everything that he had. And that she was the only person who came down to him from the light. So wherever she goes, he will follow her. Then we get a cut to Little Ro and Kun talking, where Kun is basically explaining that somebody gave this letter before the exam happened, meaning they knew the divisions, and that could only belong to somebody who shouldn't be on this floor, somebody such as a guide or a ranker or someone who is administrating the test. And if that's true, they can expedite the rules and pass her, but this is going to be really hard. So they go through it and they think about it, and they think about everything that could be done. And then we get a quick hint to Ren. Now, Ren is passing himself off as Yugi, whatever his name is, as the teacher for the fisherman, for the wave controller position. And we find him talking and explaining how difficult it is to get out of surveillance. And he is talking to the Red department in Jahad's army. At this point, he ends up getting cornered by Han Sang-yu. And he says, number 67, Ren of the Red. And basically that's where chapter 54 ends. Now I am going quite fast through these things because I want to explain it all at the end of this chapter at one go, instead of explaining it as it is happening. So they start talking, and basically Ren thinks he's here to fight him, and he attacks, and at that moment Han Sang-yu just counter assaults, showing the difference in skill between Lokobia Ren and Han Sang-yu. We then get Kun speaking to Wari Yun, and basically they explain whatever it is that they wanted to explain, and you don't have to worry. Basically, Varian says you don't have to worry about me attacking him. And how did he know that Ho was to get there? So basically they have a small talk and they explain that she was the one who tipped him off, and that he is the one who bribed Mr. Greyback, who was Ho's neighbor, with a small piece of suspendium to keep an eye on this whole situation. And after that day, he found the letter in the room. He made a copy through Madame Barondina, so he left a copy in there. He explained the situation to Rachel, and everything was like that, and they basically came up with their own little hatching plan. He got Enderossi in to help keep them apart. He also got Lowry into the plan because Lowry had a very big weakness that he could exploit. Lowry can't sleep when somebody is watching him or in the same blanket as him. So he used that to get Lowry to join because he was already vested in Balm. Then he knew how to trick Quant, and he goes through the whole plan that he hatched. And the whole idea was to get Quant so pissed off that he would purposefully betray the agreement he made with Kun. Then we go on to the next chapter, episode 56. So we get the whole thing that was hinted and how he had planned it, and he explained it all to Lero Ro. We get back to Han Sang-yu and Ren. And finally the attack starts, and as I said, he counter assaults and a single hit to counter it. And basically we see Ren say, marvelous, since he's joined Red, no one tries to attack him. And he says, goodness, did I cross the line? I didn't even mean to offend one of Jahad's rankers. I'm not trying to fight you. You're here to retrieve Black March and Green April and to eliminate Anak Jahad from the tower, right? And that's what he tells to Ren. And he says, how can I help you achieve your goals? And at this point, Ren is so confused, he didn't know what was going on. We then get back to Lero Ro and Kun as they discuss things, and there was definitely something off about the test. Everything wasn't adding up. The irregulars, the monsters who came in with Enderossi and Rachel, that whole situation is being explained, and they go through it and they talk. And finally, we see Han Sang-yu drink his coffee, and we see that a single dot of coffee is left in the center, and he leaves that there's a small wave that's soon to become a tsunami that's going to change the tower. That's where 56 ends. This here is all going to be things that I'm going to be referencing at the end of this chapter. We then get Lero Ro and Han Sang-yu talking, and they're talking about everything. And basically they explain what the whole function of the test is. To stop monstrous powers like Yurik Mazino from climbing up the tower again. And that's the whole purpose that they have here, because they don't want anybody to come into the tower with something that's too dangerous and try to shake up things at the top. And basically Han Sang-yu tells Lero Ro, if you don't like it, you can quit. Even without you, the test floor will carry on unabated. And they finally enter into the room where they're announcing the results from the paper. And basically everybody's there, they're sitting and they're waiting. And they get the results. And we see from the test, fishermen who passed, Enderossi, Chun Wah Hong, Balarose, and Anak Jahad. They're the four fishermen who passed. The spear bearers is Rak, Akri Yung, who is Ghost, Paratul, and Alexi Amigo. Right, and then we go on to the scout. We get Shibisu, Hats, and Nare Sunwood. Then we get the light bearers who have 3 in there. We get Levin, Kun, and we get Michelle Light. The wave controllers, we get Balm and we get Lowry. And those are all of those who passed. Everybody who passed is happy, and we see Balm unhappy at the fact that Rachel would have passed but she failed. And basically one of the spear bearers has an outrage saying, why did he fail? He was part of the winning team. So the teacher the teacher scores were a factor and everything, and they explain that. So Han Sang-yu says, okay, if you want to, you can come right here. You just have to withstand this for a minute. You have to make it off the podium without going crazy. And he attacks him with Shinsu, which basically hurts him to the max. And he ends up on the floor and he's totally down, and he basically calls for Perikyo to help him. And he asks if Perikyo objects. That's Han Sang-yu asking, and he says no. And he says he'll never forgive Perikyo for what he did. Then Kun says he objects, so he says, come here please. And we get the end of 57. Now 58 is very important because this was all set for the regular test which they would have taken. So Ender also thinks, what is he trying to do? And this guy who's getting tortured on the stage, he basically looks at Kun, and basically Kun says he doesn't think he's been beaten enough, and he goes at it again. And finally he's knocked out, he's finished. And Han Sang-yu asks Kun what is he unsatisfied about, and he says he wants Michelle Light, who failed due to an injury, to move on to the next round. So he asks why does he care. He says because he has a friend, and Han Sang-yu starts laughing. He says he doesn't associate him with the word friend because he's Kun. So Han Sang-yu explains he's too wounded to take the next test, and the rules say injured candidates can't participate in the next round. And he says, yes, under normal circumstances that would be true. I'll meet the administrator of the floor myself and take his test. And all the rankers are shocked at this here. Take the test from the administrator, guess like the great Jahad, and basically we get the whole hint of what was said between Leraro and Kun. And we found out that Leraro learned this here from Han Sang-yu, and that is how it worked. So basically all the rules were only set by the floor's administrator, and he can change it as he wishes. So as he said, as the administrator can intervene at any time. So then he explains, I heard, although the supervisors carry out the test now, the administrator has the supreme authority on all tests. If I get permission from the administrator for Michelle to rejoin the group, your rule regarding injury and failure would be invalid, right? And basically, so he says he'll take the position. And how did you know about that? So Kun bluffs and he says he's from one of the 10 great families. His father, he learned it about it from his father. So he says, sorry to say, but there is another reason why people don't take the test. There is a requirement to take the test. You must be an irregular, like Yurik Mazino or Jahad. And only an irregular can take the test. So now they're all on the back foot. They didn't expect that. So you must have not known about that rule. I know it's an ancient law, so only a few of us know the specifics about that test. So at that point, Bam stands up and he says, I'll take the test. And Han Sang-yu says, didn't I just tell you to take the test you need to be you must be an irregular? And Bam says, it doesn't matter because I'm an irregular. At which point everybody gets shocked, and even Rak is left surprised because he doesn't know what an irregular is. So the whole team is there and they're sitting and they're thinking about it, and Kun is sitting with them and they're all talking about it. So what's so bad about an irregular? And he's not chosen like the rest of them, but they open the door by themselves without being chosen, and they explain why it's a big problem to Naore, basically explaining the whole situation of irregulars, and that if they're associated with him, their name will be associated with bringing that great danger into the tower. And they were given a choice that they can either take the test, which would be set by the administrators of the floor themselves, or they could take it with the irregular and go up with him, which will give them a lot of priority. So that is what they had to decide. Even if you were to pass, you'll be remembered as ones who helped the irregular climb the tower. I hope you choose wisely. So everyone is asking what they should do. And Parakil says, of course we won't help. We can't ruin our lives just to bring that girl with us. And what did he ever do for any of us anyway? And then Hut says, didn't you pass the test because of Balm? And that's true, but basically they have their little argument, and they say if they feel sorry, and Kun says he's an irregular, so he can't help, otherwise his family might kick him out. So basically at that point, Hut was about to go at it and hit Kun when Rak steps in, but we then get the whole point with Balm speaking to the administrator directly, and the administrator says we meet again. I thought you'd be back, and basically you look tasty. Basically he realizes this is very dangerous, and he says he wants to have the climb up the tower. Now we know that Balm gets to ask for what he wants, and the administrator sets it according to his whim. And we see that Kun beats up Rak, and he says, you're nothing more than a scared turtle, you're too scared to lift your heads up. He's going to follow Balm no matter what. I'm not afraid of the consequences. I don't want to lose my prey. You all stay and live with your heads stuck inside your shells. And then we see everybody starts moving. Huts moves, and Anak grabs Shibisu, and they go. So now there's 4 to the team. Then we see Andorossi also goes in, and we see that everybody else just starts joining in. So Parakyul doesn't know what to do. He says, you betrayed your friend, you garbage that can't even be recycled. And he says, didn't you see that? I'm on your side, take me. And then finally everything is over, and we see Balm comes out, and he says, I can't believe you decided to do this just for some girl. Are you out of your mind? That's answering you to Balm. And he explains that he actually knew Balm was an irregular from the beginning, and he knew the relationship between the two of them, and that he made him give up the crown game, informing Ho of Michelle's reason. So basically he explains that he was the one who sabotaged them. And basically Balm asks, why would you do such a thing? You're a terrible person. And he says, you are insane. To risk your life for a girl's dream, I think you're out of your mind. Nobody in this tower would want someone like you to be in it. And Balm says, directly, you've been up the tower. Is there something worth what everyone is risking? And Hansang Yu says, well, I can't explain in words. There's more wealth and beauty than you can ever imagine. Everything in the world, no, even more than that, exists up there. But not Rachel. That ugly girl's absence doesn't change anything. It does for me, Balm replies. Without Rachel, up there is meaningless. Whatever is up there, right? And that's the way that they have that exchange. And basically, Balm says, and if you're not liars, what I want has to be up there. And he moves on, and then we get the whole thing where Ra comes to pick up Kun, because they planned the whole thing ahead of time. And he says he's the only crocodile who knows what's inside the shell. And basically, Kun says, you just call yourself a crocodile, and says, no, I didn't, I'm Great Razor. And that's at the end of episode 58. Now let's get on with this here. We got 59 and 60, and then I've got a ton to go through all at once for this entire chapter. We get that Balm held a memorial basically for Ho, who he considered to be a friend even with the betrayal that he gave him. And then we see the training that Balm undergoes with Andorossi, and this here has a very important part to play later on down the line. We see Rak training and getting stronger. We see Amigo joining him, and the two of them going crazy. We see that Namada was returned to the fisherman, and we see that everybody is getting stronger, and we see Ren getting ready for whatever it is that he's planning with the little pearl that came from Anak to her mother. Right now we're going to use the codename Anak, and we're going to keep going with it. We see everybody getting drunk and celebrating because everybody can take part in this here. We see the ho guy getting totally wasted and everybody having a party. After this here, we see Balm and Rachel looking up at the artificial sky, at the little light above them all. And then we get back to Bam and Ender Rossi training, and we see Bam is getting better at his fighting, and he manages to evade Ender Rossi, who is a lot more powerful and faster than him. And we see that his level is really catching up quick because he can now evade her attacks. And then they explain that they're going to start the final test. The final test is called the Submerged Fish Hunt Test, and that ends episode 59. Now we're going to get to episode 60, where things are now going to unfold, where we get the understanding of the test. We start off with Bam and Rachel inside the bubble inside the ocean, and they explain that they've become the fish. And then we get the next set where we see Shibisu is watching over the hunter seals, or otherwise known as the herders, and we see that she is talking to Kun, explaining that they knew everything. And the submerged fish hunt test sounds super easy, and basically Ra thought that they were going to be catching the fish, but it's quite different. You see, you're not going to catch the fish, you have to be the fish that gets caught by the herder's mother. So basically he explains the whole thing. The herder's job is to catch the fish, the gobby dolphin, also called the chaser, right? And one of the centers is the gobby queen, who is where they're going to go all the way up to and get gobbled, and basically that's what they need to do. It's simple. So then they explain there's this whole hole called the diaphragm. It fills with water, and during its filling, that's when the hunt happens, and that's when the gobby dolphins feed the gobby dolphin queen. So they explain that they create a net out of shinsu and they use it to capture their food, and then they explain everything about it. So they say it's easy, and then they explain that the gobby dolphins aren't the only thing. And we see that the test starts making its way as the gobby dolphins start forming up their net and herding up all their prey. So basically they said that they need to protect Bam and Rachel to be eaten, and that is their objective goal, to make sure that the herders aren't interfered with. So everybody's actually, there's nothing for them to do, and even without them, the chasers will still get Bam and Rachel the way. So then he says, well, even tuna appear for the group of sardines. Sharks will appear to eat it. The gobby dolphin that chases the fish also has its enemies. And at this point, we see Hutt is looking at the thieves, who use their earthworms to actually catch the fish. And basically they explain these barnacle goblins and the fact that they use their that they steal food with the wetworms, and that's how they manage to live. And the thieves' natural enemy, and another enemy of the dolphin, is the striped earth pig, or otherwise called the dog. And basically it will attack the gobby dolphins if it sees them, or it will attack the thieves. So basically that's the whole way that things go. So they don't get along well with the thieves, and they explain the whole situation. So we see that Hutt is watching over the thieves, and that they're not on the move yet, and then they're worried about the bull. And the bull is an apex predator. It eats anything and everything within the entire ecosystem. It can attack anyone and anything as it so desires. We get the whole description of it. It's a creature that appeared here. It's wiped out whole teams of regulars in the past, and if it shows up, you are absolutely doomed, basically, because you can't face off against it. And it shows up in the end of episode 60. Now there's a lot to actually go over, and you will notice that some of my episodes are shorter, some of them are longer at the moment. That's because I haven't been able to keep to this here. The bull is something planned by Han Sang-yu. He plans for it to take Bam away from all the others. It can be controlled by an enema. We find that out later on when Lopobia Ren ends up controlling it as an enema and gives it the order to hunt Bam. We also know that from the test situation, Bam managed to do things which were insane, like I had explained a little bit earlier, in the fact that his power was crazy. We then find out just how crazy it was that he is an irregular. He is considered amongst the top brass of the tower, amongst the most elite to have ever entered. The 13 warriors were the first to enter. Then it is Enryu, Pentaminum, and Uric Mazzino. So we know there are 16 irregulars who've entered the tower, and then there's Balm and Rachel who make it 17 and 18. So a total of 18 irregulars in the tower for all time. 18 irregulars make it crazy for the number of them that there are. They are part of a super elite group just being irregulars as it stands. We then go on to talk about that exam. That exam being set up says that there's a lot being manipulated. We find out that Han Sang-yu is an enema himself and he can control other creatures. And we find that out later in the middle of this submerged fish hunt. So yeah, that's another thing for you to think about when it comes to this whole story. Things just go crazy from this point on. And we're going to get a little bit more in-depth into this. Now, obviously, this is a 35-minute quick climb up. And as I said, there's only going to be up until the point where they are in the story right now. Then it will go slow and it will be once every 10 chapters. So once every 10 weeks, you're going to get a climb up from me. Hopefully that will be enough for most of you. I know that wouldn't be enough for me. But yeah, basically we'll keep going. I'm not going to do a chapter by chapter. As I said, that'll take me 2 years. And I don't intend to be sitting and making these videos for 2 years, explaining every little breakdown of every single little chapter. So catch you all in the next one and have a great day.